Well, hello and welcome back to Mission Boards. I wanted to continue to work today on the copy attachment for the lathe so that we can more easily make our rolling pins. And so I made some parts here off camera, but I can show you simply what I did. So I cut out two pieces of white oak that have this particular shape to them, because one single piece wasn't really thick enough. So this is two pieces glued together, and then I put a few screws in to make sure it held until the glue dried. And I also bored some 5/8 inch holes that you'll see the purpose of, but they're gonna hold the angle grinder on top of this. And then I did a little bit of sanding work with a belt sander just to create, I don't know if you could see it or not, create that little groove in there, and a little notch that I cut on the bandsaw at the top. So ultimately what's going to happen is this is going to be the base plate, and this is going to get mounted onto the base plate like that. I'm going to put some screws up through the bottom, and then the angle grinder is going to sit on top of the white oak piece like that. And then I'm going to use some hose clamps to hold this on. They're going to go through these holes that I bored. So I think when I do that, this will all be pretty steady and stable and won't want to flip over. But I'm going to assemble this right now, and we're starting to get close to actually trying this out and see if it works, and I'm very excited about the possibility of doing that. Hopefully it works well. But again, this is a prototype, and if it needs improvement, we'll work on the improved version later. But I'm just trying to see if the concept, the idea works. And so I'm going to go ahead and assemble this so you can watch me do that. It would be ideal if I were to glue this, but just in case I have to take this off one more time, I'm just going to use screws for now and no glue. And I chose the bottom piece, I chose to use a piece of white melamine just because it's slipperier and I can wax this and make it slide better. If I had used solid wood like white oak, it would have some advantages, because if I use glue, this would adhere better. But it would also have the disadvantage of not being quite as smooth and being more difficult to polish and make slide easy. So I'm going to try this method and see how that works out. Well, first failure, I snapped the screw. So we'll have to bore another hole for that one. We'll try to keep going here. This is the trouble with working with white oak. I love it because it's very dense and hard and stable. But man, it is difficult to drive screws in. And I pre-drilled the whole way through there, but still presents some challenges. All right, so another screw. I think it's on there quite well. You can see what this base looks like. And just to experiment with, I bought this cheap Chinese Weber angle grinder. I got this off of Amazon, I believe. It probably cost 25 bucks or maybe less than that. But I thought I'd just buy a cheap one to try this and see how well it works. I didn't want to risk one of my good grinders on here. So you can see how that sits on there. Now I'm going to attempt to tighten it down using the pipe clamps. It's amazing how strong that is and how well it seems to hold on there. I'm going to put one more. Helps if you have the drill going in the right direction. I did not. So that thing is really on there. I don't think it's going to spin or turn. And I think it's going to be pretty stable on there. Again, this is just a prototype. I'm trying this out. If it works, I could come up with a different method to attach the angle grinder. I could potentially use U-bolts or come up with something else, but this still may be the best. It seems to be exceptionally stable on there. And yeah, that's something that I'm happy with. So we're very close to trying this out. And in the next clip, I'll show you what this looks like sitting on the base, the platform that we made in the previous video. And then the only thing left to do is to make an actual template and make a device on here that's going to run against that template. And then we'll be ready to give this a go. And I'm very excited to try it out and see how this works. Thanks for tagging along. So I'm about ready to give it a try to the copy attachment for the lathe. And I wanted you to see the rest of the sled that I made here that's going to be used to do the copying. So this is the base. I think last time we talked about making this triangle shaped part that holds the angle grinder. I've used a couple of clamps, hose clamps to hold it on there. It seems to be on there really tight. And then I've gone ahead and mounted just a couple more wood pieces. Again, keep in mind this is just a prototype. I want to see if the idea works. And if it does, we'll try to make this a little more pleasant looking machine. But I've added this little piece on top that's going to run across the template that I've made. And so it's going to be held captive on both ends, so it can't kick up or back. And then this piece, the triangle shaped piece, the nose piece is going to follow the template. And so this is kind of what our standard piece of blank that we would use to make a rolling pin looks like. It's just glued up of 3 different pieces. It's 2 inches thick this way, and it's whatever the pieces are when we put 3 of them together the other way. So it's definitely not round. We have run it through the bandsaw to clip off the corners. We're going to go give this a try and see what happens. I don't know that this is going to work perfectly, but I'm really excited to try it and see what we get. The blades that I'm using on the angle grinder are just wood cutting blades that I got off Amazon. They're supposedly carbide tipped. I bought a package of 3, but I decided to put 2 on here together. I don't know how good they are. I don't know how well machined they are. They're very thin, and so I'm worried about them being very stable. But we're going to give them a try, and I just thought I'd try 2 instead of 1 because it would give it a little bit more support, make it a little stiffer. So we're going to go over to the lathe. We're going to put the blank in. We're going to set this up, and we're going to give all this a try. So come along with me. All right, so we're at the lathe, and I have created this template. Doesn't look like much, but it will allow me to get a straight line on the main part of the rolling pin, and then have these 2 tapers, 1 on each end. And I've put a center mark on here. And ultimately, if this works out, I'll come out with a better system to hold it. But I've also put a center line on my base. So I'm going to line up the center lines, and temporarily at least, we're just going to use good old bar clamps from Harbor Freight. I like Harbor Freight's clamps. They always work well for me, and the price is good. All right, so that's on center. Let me show you how the rest of this works. Going to install the blank on the lathe. I've made a couple little indentations with a screw. Put the feet down on the lathe. So I don't anticipate that the dust collection is going to be, I do anticipate that the dust is going to be a problem. I don't think there's any quick and easy way to put dust collection on this. I have some ideas. We'll do that in future videos. So I think it's going to create a lot of dust here real quick. And we'll try to figure out how to capture the dust in the future. But let me show you how the angle grinder sits on here. So we just put the base down, twist it, and now it's held captive. It can't come up in the back because it's held captive here. It can't get pulled up in the front because it's underneath there. You can see where my little guide will run against this template. So I think I have it all set up to where we can get this straight, make these little angles on the end, which we want. I've got to be careful as I cut, not to cut too fast. I got to make sure that it can't cut in and hit any of the metal parts of the lathe. That would be disastrous. So I'm going to go ahead and try this out and we'll see what happens here. I'm not sure what speed to run the lathe at. And I'm going to actually have the lathe turning in reverse. So it's going to spin this way. It's going to spin up in front of me because the angle grinder is going to cut down the other way. So these two things are both spinning. This is a single speed angle grinder. It's just a very cheesy, cheap angle grinder I got off Amazon. But I thought it'd be good to try this whole thing before I spend a lot of money on a good angle grinder. It's not variable speed, it's one speed, but it is a variable speed lathe. So we'll see how this works. So we're going to run the lathe in reverse. I think at first I'm going to try this somewhere around 500 to 600 RPM, so I'm going to back this off a little bit. There's 580, I think that's a good place to start. And what we're trying to do first is to just get this blank that's very oblong right now, get it rounded, and see if we can do that efficiently. So here goes. I don't know what's going to happen here. This is a little bit scary, but we'll try to go slow and steady and see what happens. I don't know how well you can see that, but it looks like it's actually copying pretty well. And I'd love to give you a different angle here, but I don't want to spray sawdust all over the camera. There's definitely a lot of dust created. It's a fine dust, and I'm going to have to do some work in the future on figuring out how to collect the dust better. I could easily hook it up to the dust collection system, but I need to come up with a shroud or something to put on the angle grinder that'll collect this dust. But so far it's made a nice taper. It's kind of rough. But what I really want to do again is just to create the rough blank and then be able to put it on the lathe normally and smooth it up and do the final turning very quickly then. So far I'm happy with it. I'm going to keep going. I'll give you a different angle from the other side here so you can watch this happen. So hopefully you can see that. It didn't take too long at all to rough out this blank. And it's not perfect. I think there's some things I'd like to initially improve on. But it's doing what I wanted it to do, which was to rough out a rolling pin and to do that pretty fast. It needs dust collection. There's lots of dust in the air. That's why I'm coughing. But we'll work on dust collection, try to figure out how to capture the dust. I'd like to try a different kind of blade. Those little carbide blades don't have a square tooth, but they have alternating top bevel teeth on them that are angled. So it kind of makes for a rougher finish. I'd like to try a blade that has maybe a rounded teeth. But yeah, it's doing what I had hoped it would do. It does it pretty efficiently. I just got to figure out how to capture the dust and how to make it just a little bit smoother. And if I can capture the dust, I can keep the dust from becoming a problem on the table, because I can't deal with dust against the template here. It's going to change the dimensions. But yeah, all in all, I think this is successful. I'm excited to try some more of this and to try to perfect it, and I'll bring you along when I do that. But I'm going to stop the video here, I think, and wrap it up. Just want to thank you for watching. If you find any of this interesting, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, and we'll keep trying to bring you along on the Mission Board's journey. Thanks for watching.